How's it going? Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're about to get into new Rockstars' latest breakdown for Spider-Man No Way Home. Really excited for this because there's so many things in this trailer that, like, even I know I missed, and like this was such a highly anticipated trailer, and it like broke all records. And man, like Eric Voss, probably one of the goats of the breakdown video on YouTube right now. So let's get into the breakdown, and we'll talk about it throughout and afterwards.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the new trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home, which confronts Tom Holland, Peter Parker, with Doc Ock, Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2, 2004, Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe from the Raimi trilogy, Electro, Jamie Foxx from the 2014 Amazing Spider-Man 2.
What's interesting is, like, I'm kind of wondering if he's from a different universe than the one we know, because I mean, look at that. They look totally different from the 2014 to now. Like, it's a big difference. It's quite a big difference.
Sandman, Thomas Hayden Church from the Raimi movies, and the Lizard, Rhys Ifans from the 2012 Amazing Spider-Man, not to mention Doctor Strange. But this trailer seems to be playing some VFX trickery, because I highly doubt Peter's facing all these threats by himself. That's right, his backup, Sonic and Shrek. I'm gonna go through this frame by frame to find all the Easter eggs and details that this trailer is hiding. This video was sponsored by our friends at Heroes Journal. More on them later. Let's get started.
That's a great shot. It really is.
By that spider. I've only had 1 week where my life has felt normal. That was when you found out.
We open on sad Peter Parker, his face bruised and bleeding, tears and rain. Seems like the end of the movie, so who is Peter mourning? Who's gonna die? Well, the trailer suggests MJ, but it could just as easily be like Ned, Aunt May, Happy Hogan, or Shrek. This could also be an ending where Peter, in order to save those he loves and those he doesn't want to harm, must exile himself to a reality in the multiverse where he is a stranger with no way home, where it rains a lot, called Seattle. Peter tells MJ that the week between her finding out that he was Spider-Man and Far From Home, and Mysterio and J. Jonah Jameson outing him in the post-credit scene of that movie, was his one normal week ever since the spider bit him.
That's interesting.
Now, this is only the second time Peter has mentioned his spider bite, an origin we never actually saw in the MCU, just kind of glossed over in Homecoming.
Yo, did you play a spider? Can it bite me? Well, it probably would have hurt, right? You know what? Whatever. Even if it did hurt, I'll let it bite me. Maybe. How much did it hurt? The spider's dead, man.
So No Way Home could finally be the film the MCU flashes back to the exact circumstances of Peter's spider bite, especially if this movie does introduce him to the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield versions of the character, whose bites and web-slinging abilities took alternate forms. Peter and MJ swing past J. Jonah Jameson's Daily Bugle broadcast until it switches to his own face half-mast with Public Enemy number 1. Number 1? Does no one care that Nexus witches exist? Just go talk to those survivors in Westview, or to Mr. Dell.
Yeah.
Witches.
And in the shot, you can see how MJ's hair is blocking Peter's view, and that nearly causes him to smack right into that screen. And only when it clears does he finally whip to the side. Then Peter and MJ perch on the Queensboro Bridge. You can see over to the side there, this is right next to the Roosevelt Island Tramway, the setting of Green Goblin Showdown with Tobey Maguire and Peter Parker in the first Raimi Spider-Man film. Let's move on.
Will is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now he's free to become...
You botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
Woo!
We started getting some visitors.
As Peter and MJ jump from that bridge, you can see MJ is wearing the same Joan of Arc t-shirt that she wore at the end of Far From Home, which, in addition to being a reflection of MJ's feminine pride, was itself an Easter egg Hollybag Zendaya's Joan of Arc look at the 2018 Met Gala. Then they glide through the subway tunnels, somehow missing Morbius despite his best efforts to sneak into this universe. And obviously they do this to escape the helicopters tracking them, but also following Cap's advice for how best to escape the city.
You take them to the basement or through the subway. You keep them off the streets.
Someone's been watching his cat PSAs, and then as they nearly run into a train for a brief second, the train screen flashes red, and the M train That's right, Spider-Man narrowly avoided the Mephisto train. Run all you want, Spider-Man. We all float down here. Nah, R.I.P. your earbuds. The M line actually runs through Queens, so this train is likely coming from Queens, and Peter's just trying to get home. But there's no way home thanks to Mephisto. Now, you'll notice Benedict Cumberbatch's audio sounds stitched together here.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget the Peter Parker Spider-Man.
As many of his off-screen lines actually sound in this trailer.
There are others out there. We need to send them back.
They're starting to come through, and I can't stop them.
This is the first time for me in the Marvel Universe.
I'm guessing that Cumberbatch is just so fluid with line reads, with more revelatory terms bleeding into the trailer dialogue, making it harder to cut around. Now, the from-behind shot of Peter shows him wearing a dark blue jacket, clearly a different scene than the shot of Peter with the plaid shirt when the spell occurs. Him in the jacket actually matches with the shot of the first trailer, where the lizard was swiping at Peter, so Dr. Strange may have actually caught the lizard on his own while Peter was dealing with Doc Ock and Goblin on the bridge. You see more of the exact moment that Peter tampers with the spell, causing the golden bands to tremble and then explode outward. And again, there are 4 of these bands, maybe 4, each of the 4 universes that get crossed over in this movie: the MCU, the Raimiverse, the Webverse, and the Venomverse. And as they illuminate the room, you can see that the blue murk that previously surrounded them dissipates. Presumably that was going to be the cold and drowsy humor that Doctor Strange was trying to conjure to just simply erase people's memories. But now the golden reality warp bands tear the room to pieces around them. Now that we've seen Venom Let There Be Carnage, that movie's post-credit scene seems to be showing a similar process. A bright golden light fills the room, and then reality warps the room's decor. That can explain why we have all these random odds and ends in this dungeon later on. It's just a bunch of crap that got redecorated after the reality warped. I compared this imagery to Wanda Maximoff's reality warping in WandaVision, and I still believe Strange might be under Wanda's spell, which is clearly what WandaVision was setting up, and could explain why Strange so willingly helps Peter warp reality. Because remember, Wanda is looking for a reality where her children could still be alive.
And that is probably what leads into Multiverse of Madness. That is really cool. That's cool. That is such a clever thing. Like, that'd be so cool if we find out if like she was behind him this whole time through Spider-Man No Way Home, and it ends on a cliffhanger, finding out that she was behind all this, and then that leads into Multiverse of Madness. That would be cool.
Moving on.
From every universe.
Hello, Peter.
I love it. Green Goblin is here. He looms in through the smoke of his own pumpkin grenades, riding his glider. Meanwhile, Strange explains that these visitors are coming from every universe, meaning Doctor Strange might have been previously aware of alternate universes like the Raimiverse, which would give interesting meaning to the line he said to Tony Stark back in Infinity War.
Protecting your reality, douchebag.
Then Electro's bolts blast through the ground toward Peter, who wears this new black and gold suit. This suit's kind of a mess. There's loose wires poking out, duct tape all over the place. Actually, later you can see MJ and Ned are on a smartphone duct taped to his chest, apparently FaceTiming all this. I'm guessing this mission might be to catch Electro, and they have to do it in a way without Peter's Iron Spider armor, maybe by turning his old suit inside out, so all the wiring is now exposed. Or maybe his nanotech suit can't be relied on after he ran into Doc Ock. Or this could just be a new suit that they rigged up to be more resistant to high voltage. Let's move on to the next clip.
Interesting. Okay.
You're not Peter Parker.
Ah, yes, license plates. So I pointed out in past videos how the cars on this bridge seems to have specific license plates that could be pointing to specific comic book issues, something Spider-Man director John Watts actually does in all of his movies. Here, Doc Ock and Peter pass a plate reading JND79WN, which doesn't seem to directly translate to anything particular, unless maybe you try to stretch J and D being for Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, who did first appear in Marvel Comics in 1976, but later, here is a clearly overt one, ASM 8183. John Watts always uses ASM to refer to Amazing Spider-Man, and then a specific comic book issue followed by the year. But this could be interpreted a couple different ways, actually. There was a Spectacular Spider-Man, not Amazing Spider-Man, issue 81 in 83, which mixes up Spider-Man with Cloak and Dagger, Punisher, and a certain bald baddie who's gonna come stomping into the MCU soon. Kingpin. Yes, I have theorized that Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, could be revealed in Hawkeye and could be the sixth villain of the Sinister Six in this movie. But alternatively, there's also an Amazing Spider-Man number 183 that was released in August 8th month in the year 1973, in which Peter gets attacked by a big wheel while Aunt May is hospitalized. This could just be a joke about how the wheel of this car is flying at Peter right now. But then beneath the bridge, Doc Ock jams his claw at Peter, and I love how John Watts uses a whip pan, the same kind of camera movement that Sam Raimi would often use for Doc Ock in the 2004 film. But notice how Doc Ock's arms now have a red and gold coating to them, and a chunk of Peter's nanotech is missing from his chest. He actually has to reallocate the nanobots from his helmet to his chest to protect himself from the blow, and a later trailer shot shows that Doc Ock straight up absorbs Peter's nanotech armor from his suit. And this is crazy, because Doc Ock comes from an alternate universe where Stark tech does not exist. How can it be compatible with this tech? Well, if you think about it, his arms are actually controlled via a neural link that was fused to his spinal cord. And Stark nanotech seems to be controlled via a kind of neural link as well. So maybe that is how Doc Ock can hack into it. I'm just excited to see nanotech on the loose in the MCU. Could be a major plot point in shows like Armor Wars. Also, a little VFX detail that I appreciate. Peter's necktie dangles from the open nanotech hole where his chest is, but as that nanotech shifts and seals that hole, it tucks the necktie back in. Meanwhile, when Tom Holland's face is revealed, Doc Ock says,
"You're not Peter Parker."
answering our questions from the first trailer as to why Doc Ock would see this version of Spider-Man and recognize him as Peter from his universe. It's just because Doc Ock saw someone, I guess, who looked like Spider-Man and assumed that would be Tobey's face underneath. But what I like about this line is it does confirm the existence of a Tobey Maguire Peter Parker somewhere in this merged Spider-Verse and makes his cameo even more likely. Let's move on.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dr. Otto Octavius.
Wait, no, seriously, what's your actual name?
Sounds like the kids are okay boomering Doc Ock about his name. I like how Ned is holding a crossbow. Might have been something he picked up from Strange and Wong's artifacts that they use for things like vampire hunting, because we know a lot of these are coming in the MCU. Meanwhile, MJ's necklace, I love this detail. It's actually a broken piece of the Black Dahlia necklace that Peter bought for her in Venice and later ended up broken when he gave it to her in that movie. She's so loyal. What a keeper. But I mean, it's MJ. She likes it better than it's broken. And then here we see how Doc Ock actually retains the red and gold nanobots from Peter's suit on his arms. He might have actually absorbed all of the nanobots for all we know. And then as Doc Ock turns his head, these claws, like snake heads, turn their heads too. We're not really sure how much these arms are listening to him or he's listening to them. I like to think they listen to me now. Next clip.
There are others out there. We need to send them back. So, Scooby-Doo this crap.
You know, all this is kind of your mess. I know a couple magic words myself, starting with the word please.
Please, Scooby-Doo this crap.
Okay, amazing set piece here. The freaking Statue of Liberty, keeping the tradition of landmark set pieces like the Washington Monument, the Venice Grand Canal, Tower Bridge in London, but now with huge cranes over it attaching a massive Captain America shield. You can see a banner hanging from the scaffolding reading, Lady Liberty, the newest Avenger, and you can actually see those words on a bus stop ad for it later on. Now, we just saw Liberty Island used as an example of how the world has gone to crap during the blip with all the loose boats moored up to it, but now it seems as though the government is using Lady Liberty as a way of celebrating the Avengers' victory. For when Cap stood his ground facing the abyss and found backup from opening portals behind him, as we pray Peter Parker will receive some backup from other Peters in this scene. If you remember, this was kind of foreshadowed in Far From Home when Mysterio's illusion trapped Peter in a snow globe where the Statue of Liberty rose up beside him. And earlier, Peter stood among giant statues of his fallen Avenger heroes, with him standing on a giant Captain America shield. Now, of course, using the Statue of Liberty as a final battle set piece has been something that pretty much all superhero movies have avoided because it was done back in one of the first big Marvel movies, X-Men in 2000, which is the Marvel movie where Kevin Feige got got his start as an associate producer. We're coming full circle with that, and I think there's some
did I know
reason for
that?
I'll get to it at the end of the video. Getting the answers to these questions is quite a quest for me. So Electro is charging up using electrical towers. Meanwhile, Peter uses a piece of wrist tech that eliminates rings of eldritch magic from Doctor Strange. So must be this suit, or maybe even just this piece on his wrist, was probably given to Peter in order to snare villains like Electro, kind of like a Ghostbuster using a proton pack and a trap. Then Doctor Strange tells them to Scooby-Doo this crap. Just another example of the MCU folding in all of pop culture into their universe. Kind of like how Eternals just cited other Warner properties like Superman and Batman. And then the preview clip of Hawkeye mentioned Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games. But Strange telling them to Scooby-Doo this problem does cast this group as a kind of Mystery Inc. Like MJ would be Velma, Peter probably Shaggy, Ned Scooby, and Happy and Aunt May, Fred and Daphne. They're useless and always trying to
There's a new way to collaborate. It's faster.
Why don't you mind your own business, pal?
But like in Scooby-Doo, the kids of this movie might end up unmasking the real villain behind it all, which according to Scooby-Doo lore is more often than not the old man Jenkins, who hired them in the first place. So just add this to the list of reasons to be super suspicious of Doctor Strange in this movie. He may be the witch who would have gotten away with it if it weren't for that meddling Nedlin. Moving on.
They're flying out into the darkness to fight ghosts.
What do you mean?
They're all dying, finding Spider-Man. It's their fate.
So we see a combination of Electro and Sandman attacking cops and news vans, but now standing beside the Daily Bugle van is our man, J.K. Simmons, as J. Jonah Jameson. Giddy smile on his face as he realizes he's getting a great scoop. And as Electro blasts away, you can see his humanoid shape flashing like lightning from spot to spot. Now, of course, his lightning color is now yellow, not blue like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but since Doc Ock can absorb nanotech, I think a lot of these villains might adapt new features as they transition into the MCU. I love Doc Ock chilling us with this line.
They're flying out into the darkness to fight ghosts.
For one, it doubles down on this.
Yeah, that is a great line. It really is.
But also, Alfred Molina is looking directly into the camera here as if this is how he shuts up those kids for laughing about his name, reminding them that they will be facing madmen who should be dead, who now think that they're in some kind of purgatory or hell, and therefore they have nothing to lose. Doctor Strange says that all these people died fighting their version of Spider-Man, but that definitely wasn't the case for Sandman at the end of Spider-Man 3. Peter Parker forgave him and let him go, making us wonder, geez, Toby, what did you do after Spider-Man 3? You Flynn Marco break your damn door?
Fix this damn door!
Then Peter leaps after a pumpkin grenade as it explodes in front of him. This actually looks like the lobby of that same building, the one with the police cars outside, the same one we later see Electro and Sandman outside of, in the lobby that Aunt May seems to be charging through. I also think, based off of the SWAT swarming around it, that is where Happy Hogan is. So, between Happy and May, that's two very worrisome options for who this pumpkin grenade may be targeting. But Peter does seem to be wearing a new incarnation of his Iron Spider nanotech that probably protects him from this explosion. You can see that gold emblem stretching across his shoulders. That's completely new. The guy's got a million suits in this franchise. And in that shot, he appears to be talking to Aunt May after the explosion. So I'm thinking she'll be okay. Happy though? I don't know. But an explosion does destroy the entrance, emitting a green fire, which actually continues to burn green on that piece in the lower right. So I'm wondering if this could be part of Goblin's weaponry. And then on the right is a Feast truck. Feast is Peter Parker's homeless outreach organization, and it has a big hole torn out of the side of the truck, like someone might have used this truck as perhaps a Trojan horse that they burst out of in the attack.
I'm sorry, kid.
Yeah, me too.
Don't.
There has to be another way!
There isn't. They're a danger to our universe.
So deciding that he does not want to send these villains to their certain deaths, either realizing that if he's worthy of redemption, so must they be, or after Mysterio, he doesn't want any villain blood on his hands, Peter whips and snatches that green cube artifact as it levitates between Strange's hands. I'm assuming this is some kind of Pokeball pocket prison that Doctor Strange is either storing the villains inside of, or some kind of mechanism that allows him to return them to sender. I love this. Peter is strung between two portals. Strange must have tricked Peter by opening one portal in the direction he was already whipping, and then another one immediately behind him, so that Peter ended up whipping his own foot. Genius! But in this shot I mentioned before, Aunt May looks super emotional, and she's carrying carrying some device. Looks metallic, cylindrical, and glowing green a bit. Could this be some form of Goblin's tech? Then Doc Ock tries to crush Peter's head, which then leads to the nanobot spreading across his mechanical arms. This actually might have been a defense mechanism by the nanobots to keep the claws from crushing the helmet, but then those bots fuse with Otto's neural link, allowing him to inherit them. On to the next clip.
You'll never take this away from me.
You're struggling to have everything you want while the world tries to make you choose.
So Peter swings through the scaffolding at the base of the Statue of Liberty, but you'll notice the statue is bronze-colored, not the green color we know today. And that's because when the statue was originally assembled in France in the 1880s, its copper plating made it a dull brown color. And then over the next 30 years, it oxidized green, the color we now know it as. So maybe this statue is actually restored as part of its newest Avenger redo. Actually, in shots of Peter perched on the crown, you can see streaks of green in those spikes as if this oxidation was being scrubbed off. Then we get our first clear look at Jamie Foxx as Electro. He wears this chunky gear that seems to help conduct the electric current, and it all seems to be stemming from a chest component that almost looks like an arc reactor, like a spare one from Stark's tech. Just be another piece of Stark tech that one of these Spidey villains could hijack and repurpose. He does seem to fire a powerful blast that seems like it's a mixture of repulsor blasts. And then I love this, as the electricity courses over his head, it makes the yellow starburst shape of Electro's classic spark mask from the comics. Then we get a nice close-up of Green Goblin on his glider, as well as a quick flash of a goblin without his helmet, wearing flight goggles. I'm just thinking this is a blurry Willem Dafoe face, because if alternate goblins or Hobgoblin was in this movie, I don't think they would reveal James Franco or Dane DeHaan Goblin in a shot like this. But you'll notice he drops in with a swarm of razor bats. You remember those nasty things from the first Raimi film. And then a DODC SWAT unit swarms in on the building, Department of Damage Control. These are the authorities who arrested and interrogate Peter, and they seem to here be in the apparent aftermath of that green explosion. And then a juiced up version of Doctor Strange's spell blasts out from Liberty Island, expanding far into the sky. Maybe that cube broke open, causing the barriers between realities to open even wider. More thoughts on this in a bit, but on to the next clip.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone.
Okay, so Electro, Sandman's giant face, and Lizard leap across the Statue of Liberty scaffolding towards Spider-Man, but clearly Lizard is jumping towards something else that must be positioned beneath Spider-Man that's been scrubbed from the frame. Actually, in the Brazilian version of this trailer, the cut was left long enough to show Lizard recoiling as if something kicked him in the head, something that was removed from this trailer, and I think it's a very good chance that in the theatrical version of this scene, that is going to be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Maybe Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but Garfield Peter has a history with Lizard. Actually, Electro is also an Andrew Peter villain. Sandman was the Tobey Peter villain. Tom's really the odd one out here. But this shot just makes it seem like it's 3 versus 1, but compositionally, it makes far more sense for this to be 3 versus 3. Kind of like how the profile collision shot in Civil War was equal numbers on both sides. And when Peter tells Aunt May that he can't save everyone, I think the subtext of that is that he can't do it alone. And he's gonna get some endgame style backup from his Peter variants. Now, I fully respect Sony for not putting Tobey and Andrew in the trailer, but fans have been so ravenous with speculation, I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point. Still, I think we're gonna scream at Doc Brown when we see them. Let's move on. So the giant Captain America shield crashes through the scaffolding, causing Ned and MJ to lose their balance, and MJ falls in slow motion with framing pretty similar to Gwen Stacy's fall in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Peter dives after her, reaching out his hand. Is he gonna catch her? Well, many are asking whose hand this actually is. It's definitely Tom Holland, Peter Parker's hand, based on the glove design and the new suit he is wearing in the sequence. But the parallels to Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker, and Gwen Stacy's death are pretty strong enough here that it would not surprise me if Sony pulls another VFX switcheroo and replaces Tom's hand with the life-saving grasp of Shrek. I'm kidding. Andrew Garfield, who would refuse to let another Peter Parker love interest die the same way as Gwen Stacy did. And you'll notice that the two hands here are framed perfectly with One World Trade Center in the background, just as this building does looming over Gwen Stacy's funeral in the 2014 film. Let's move on to the final clip.
What's happening? They're starting to come through, and I can't stop them.
So it looks as though that spell that blasted outward from the Statue of Liberty has left this crack in the sky, like the cracks in space formed when the multiverse shattered in Loki, or the shattering of reality walls in What If. Now, these cracks were once orange, like the golden bands of Doctor Strange's spell, but now a purple glow has overtaken the orange color as this glows in from what lays beyond. Purple has tended to be the color of dark magic in the MCU, the color of Dormammu in the Dark Dimension, the color of Agatha Harkness's dark magic. But the question is, what or who has started to come in through these cracks that Doctor Strange cannot keep out? Well, interdimensional threats like Dormammu or Shuma Gorath or demons from the What If episode 4 always seem to be a threat to Doctor Strange. Maybe we're looking at a symbiote hive or Kang variants. I don't think it has to be one big threat, but like the Sinister Six spawning throughout the MCU, any number of out-of-place outsiders suddenly appearing from different universes. And I think it is interesting that they chose the Statue of Liberty as the focal point of all of this. The gateway to a new world for the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. A symbol chosen specifically for that X-Men final battle, for that reason, as part of Magneto's plan to transform world elites into poor huddled mutants from a shining beacon in Lady Liberty's torch. No Way Home is clearly a prelude to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the MCU's version of the Scarlet Witch House of M storyline, which is the nexus point of mutant existence in the multiverse. If we are seeing the moment that break in reality occurs, and if Doctor Strange has any link whatsoever to the Scarlet Witch, which we know from WandaVision that he does, then Kevin Feige might have chosen the Statue of Liberty specifically for that parallel symbolism as the place that he, when he got his start as a young associate producer on that X-Men 2000 film, personally shepherded Marvel superheroes to take a huge leap forward on the big screen, and he could be now bringing it full circle as a place mutant kind arrives on the shores of the MCU. Well, that is everything I caught in this magnificent No Way Home trailer, but we will be making plenty more videos about this in the days and weeks to come. So support this channel by checking out our merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns of everything you love. It's late in the night. I can't talk anymore.
I'm gonna keep this really short because this video is already really long. I think Spider-Man No Way Home is gonna end on a cliffhanger. I really think it's gonna end on a cliffhanger leading into Multiverse of Madness, like that. Like I really, really hope it does. Like, cause like you see the trailer and it's like it really gives you clue. It's really cluing you in and all that. It's really, really interesting. But yeah. I mean, these breakdowns are amazing. Like they really, really open your eyes to a lot of stuff in the trailer. Man, I am so excited for this. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that was my reaction to the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer breakdown from New Rockstars. Just want to say, if you are new and you made it to the end of the video, you can go ahead and check out my channel for other video reactions like this, trailer reactions. I also have top 10s, movie reviews, and a bunch of other film-related content on the channel. If you are a returning subscriber, I really appreciate you. If you are new to subscribing, please do not forget to click the bell to get notified of future videos. I have a Patreon if you'd like to support me over there. I give early access to videos and all that kind of stuff. I have a Twitter where you can follow me. I give updates to the vids as well as me talk about my favorite movie news. And I have a Discord that you can join and interact with me and a bunch of other people. So, just want to say one last time, I appreciate you all. Stay random.